Hi, everyone. It's David Ault, and I am super excited once again that you've chose to join me here for the gathering. I was reflecting on a particular aspect of human pain that I have repeatedly been involved in throughout my life. And that's this idea of fixing people or having this idea of, wow, I'm going to make their life better, or wow, I'm going to show you that life is worth living. And as I was thinking about the multiple times that I have caught myself in that sort of game, that is a game of seduction. The seduction is pulling me into being distracted by someone else's life and experience rather than looking at and being invested in my own development. By development, I'm talking about my own spiritual awareness of, let's say, sort of cleaning up my own backyard. Have you ever caught yourself in doing that? It's like it feels so scary sometimes, or there is such a hurdle of accepting personal worth that it almost feels easier to be seduced and let me go do it for someone else. And I find that that period of going off and being seduced in doing it for other people can be lengthy in human terms. And when I was thinking about pain, that one of the precursors of that pain is this seduction to be pulled in, let me go do it for others, let me distract from having to really get more vulnerable with myself. So I've been guilty of that quite a bit in my life. And even when I was able to name the seduction would still pull me from time to time. So there was an unconsciousness about that seduction and the way in which it worked. We might call it the ego. I've heard people say that sometimes the ego will fight with everything it has in order to keep you, me, locked into the illusion of separation, the us and them. And when we are in the process of becoming self-aware, then that deconstruction of duality and separation is beginning to happen. And that can be very disconcerting and very scary for the part of us that wants to stay locked into the illusion. And so what happens is we get seduced, we get distracted, we get pulled in. Let me go do this good for this other person. And then before you know it, we have been trapped in a long and lengthy relational dysfunction where I haven't even done my own work. So seduction is kind of widespread. And as I was thinking about how to talk about this today, I came upon or remembered an old illustration that I heard decades ago. And it was going to the movies. And so the premise of the illustration is to imagine that everyone inevitably is going to this movie. And this illustration was first offered to me back in the day when newspapers were really big. And do you remember the entertainment section? Do you remember how the movies used to be in these advertised blocks in the entertainment section? And it was always fun for me to open up that and to look and to glance at all of the options that were there. And that's kind of maybe how I would make a plan for a weekend. Maybe I'll go see this movie, or you can look and get the information for the times and where it was playing and what theater. Today, we do a lot of that online, on our phones, on our laptops, etc. But the idea is still the same. So the inevitability that everyone is going to go to this particular movie. And now you break it down and you look at society as a whole. There are some people who don't have a clue about the movie. There are other people who have heard about it, but haven't really seen or gathered any information. There are people who, in their hearing of it, have sort of formulated opinions about whether or not they're going to go, or whether it's good or whether it's bad. There are other people who have taken it a step further, and they've either bought the newspaper or they've gone online just to research. There are other people who have now determined that they're going to go, but they're not quite sure when. There are other people who have determined when and are traveling en route to go and see the movie. There are people who are in line buying the ticket. There are people who have already bought the ticket and are now inside the building where the movie is going to be playing, and they're at the concession stand. There are people who are already inside the theater and the movie has begun. And there are people who have completed the movie and are now exiting back out into the world. And I remember hearing in this illustration that we have all been in each part of that description, that placement of being in the process of going to the movie. And we can begin to look at our world and people and see where they are in that process. And the movie then represents a sort of spiritual awakening, becoming spiritually aware. We understand that that's not a one and done thing, that there are multiple trips to the movie. But going back to seduction, how many times have we been in varying processes of that, whether it's standing in line, and we sort of have gotten out of line and been seduced and trying to get other people to join us? It feels like it's a natural thing. We want people to see the movie. We want people to feel better. We want people to have some tiny ounce of spiritual awakening and relief from their particular situation. However, when we escape our particular place in the process and focus solely on another person, then we are not filling our own cup, as the saying goes. And what is that seduction about? I think sometimes for me, there was an unconscious fear of what it would be like to fully awaken, to coming to terms. And yet I couldn't articulate what that fear was about. It was just sort of this bubbling thing in there. It felt as though it was so much easier to do it for other people. It was so much easier to get other people to go see the movie when I haven't even sat through the whole movie yet. I remember when I was with Louise Hay all those years ago, and her first book, the big book, came out, the one called You Can Heal Your Life. And those of us who were working and traveling with her, she all gave us like a crate, like this big box of complimentary books that we could give however we wanted to. And I was so taken and moved and extremely grateful for Louise and what she had done for me, that I took my box of books and I mailed them to family members. And there were notes on there that said, you really need to read this. And I would estimate that no one read it, not with that kind of note, because you see, there were things in that book that I had not even come close to fully embodying. And what I was trying to do was saying, hey, you need this. It reminded me of Sunday mornings when I was a platform minister, and back in the day of CDs, when we would record the talk and then you could purchase the CD in the bookstore. People would often be in the line at the bookstore going, oh, wow, I'm buying this for so-and-so because they need this. So you start to see how we overlay our own spiritual responsibilities onto other people, or we postpone our own work. It's a beautiful thing to come to an understanding of the quiet journey within us, the quiet soldier within us, that we soldier on through the human experience of polarity, of duality, and we find a way in order to be in that world, but not seduced by that world, not seduced into the cumbersome worry and the cumbersome need to fix others. when really the only responsibility for us is to go see the movie. Go see the movie, now digest the movie, now practice the principles of the movie, so that as we exit out of those moments, plural, of self-awareness, that we are resonating what it is that we are embodying as we navigate through the world. It doesn't mean that we don't talk about the movie. That's what I'm doing here. It doesn't mean that we don't help people. But by help, it's about understanding that we're not doing it from a place of seeing them in need, but we see it from a deep, secure place. It's so important to hear this. We see people from the place that they have already seen the movie, that there is that which within them is already awakened, that there is that which is within them that is where they are because their process is their process. And when we talk about helping alleviate human suffering, it isn't about picking people out of the line and seeing the movie for them. It's about reassuring them. It's about feeding them. It's about clothing them. It's about loving them wherever they are in the process. And the paradoxical thing for us to do is to have a knowing inside of us that their journey is their journey, and their journey is a whole one, and their journey is one where they have already won. That is the culmination and the understanding of what comes from the repeated viewing of the movie, that we come to realize when we talk about non-duality, that we are a soul, that everyone is a soul. Even the people who in the duality aren't aware of the movie are a soul and not a body. And so they're on a journey. Everyone is on a journey. It doesn't mean that we turn up our nose and go, oh, well, that's not my journey. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to check our motivations and to not lock people in an identity of need, but to say, how can I live the elements of the movie more clearly, more purely, and more lovingly without the need to try to coerce or fix someone else's process? What does that look like? Because I know that sounds so confusing, because you're talking about being a non-dual knowingness in a dual world where pain and suffering is inevitable. So it's like, I don't know, think of the master teacher Jesus. Jesus didn't gain or have this knowingness, this evolution, this ascended consciousness, Christ consciousness. He didn't just have that and then not be involved in the world. He then entered into the world, and he taught, and he fed, and he nurtured, and he healed, and he did all kinds of things that were integrative in terms of him participating in life. And all of us, and what I love so dearly about biblical teaching is when, and whether it's true or not, whether it's an allegory or whether it's been mistranslated or not, the point is that there's something where he said, great things have I done, because everybody's claiming and talking and reminding him of all the good that he's doing. He said, okay, great things have I done, but greater things shall ye do. So he was looking at the collective consciousness. He was looking at infinite possibility of everyone who will inevitably go to the movie, and saying, by doing this, by reawakening, you too will do great things, greater things than perhaps that are documented by what I have done. So he wasn't excluding himself. He was including himself in the process and the product of consciousness. And so, again, he didn't escape and totally isolate himself after having this experience. He integrated into the world. So let's say that you have gone to the movie. Let's say that you have uncovered the deep secrets, and that is that duality is an illusion, that the us and them, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the worthy and the unworthy, the lovable and unlovable, all of that stuff is garbage. That what is really true is that every sentient being is an emanation of love. And even in its most egregious behavior in the duality, it's still love. So the game is to look beyond that behavior and to call forth that which is the love in all sentient beings. And how do we do that? By being that ourselves. That's why to love people and to serve people and to remember that the only reality is everything that we gained in the movie. By understanding and knowing that, then we help alleviate the suffering. And the suffering is from what? The forgetfulness. The suffering looks and appears as though it's from the tangible human hunger, war, and that's true. But the greater suffering is from the forgetfulness. And so our job is to help people remember. And what's the best way to help people remember? By being it, by serving. Again, not serving because, oh, look what I'm doing for the needy. Oh, look, you're so miserable. Let me help you out. It's by being the light and simply reminding them. Sometimes that's not through words. Sometimes that's through action. So how will you then break free from the seduction of the duality? So you see, the duality, part of the seduction and the duality says that, wow, okay, if I don't feel worthy enough, then I'm going to do things. I'm going to be seduced into trying to find out how to be worthy. If in the duality I think that I'm unlovable, then I'm going to get caught up into all of the cycles of how do I change my physicality? What do I do to my appearance and my personality? I'm going to take up all kinds of classes and coaching in order to, how do I be more lovable? That's a part of the seduction. How else am I seduced? By duality. If I feel as though I'm unhealable or diseased from a stagnant, inert position, then I will sort of give up all hope, and I will be seduced into thinking that I'm quote, quote, incurable. And again, this isn't about false hope. It's about understanding that wherever I am and the conditions that I am, those things are perfect in that moment to help me in my process of watching the movie. So sometimes I will take my dis-ease and I will get in line and I will go to the movie, and I will, instead of wanting the disease to go away, the movie will help show me and teach me that I'm in relationship with that dis-ease for that moment for a particular reason. I'm in relationship with it because it's there to help me in the process. So all of a sudden, I'm not seduced in trying to make things go away. I'm not seduced in trying to be distracted and go force and fight over here. I'm not being seduced into trying to change things about myself in a way to be pleasing to other people. I'm not being seduced into thinking that I have to do something, some grind in order to survive because that's the best that can be. You start to see the seduction pulls us. And why is it pulling us? Duality is the magnet. Duality is the magnet that is pulling us into being seduced into thinking that we have to do all of these things. And the movie says, don't do that. The movie reveals to us, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is remember. Remember that you've already won. Remember who and what you are. You are the light. You are an emanation of that which is the infinite intelligence. You are an eternal soul. Now in your remembering, now in your remembering, I'm going to say it again. Now in your remembering, go and serve others, understanding that they too are in the perfect process of embodying, seeing, and coming back and reawakening to the movie. That's our job. That's what it means to be a bodhisattva, to help eliminate the suffering of the world. It appears to be in the tangibility of how we feed, love, clothe, and we do that. But again, we do it coupled with the knowing that they are holy just as they are. I hope that makes sense. I hope that you can look at your own habits of seduction. Where are you pulled? Where are you caught? Where are you drained? Where do you find yourself going, oh my God, here I am again? All of that is a product of seduction, and the seduction comes from the duality that wants to tell you that you are separate. And I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, as the little song that I once wrote. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you're truly loved. Blessings. Thank you so much. Till next time.